Hello, my name is Ethan Hayes. I'm 27 years old, a white guy scraping by in the quiet town of Riverside, California. Life here isn't glamorous. It's a mix of foggy mornings by the river and endless commutes on cracked highways. I work the night shift as an HVAC maintenance guy and janitor at Apex Innovations, this massive tech building downtown. It's not my dream job, but it pays just enough to cover my online programming courses. I'm trying to get certified in software engineering, hoping one day it'll pull me out of this grind. Most nights, I start at midnight and wrap up before dawn, dodging the early birds in their suits while I scrub vents and check air filters. It's invisible work, but it keeps the lights on in my cramped apartment on the edge of town. That particular morning, around 5 a.m., I was on the 45th floor, finishing up a routine check on the ventilation system. The building was dead silent, the kind of quiet that makes your footsteps echo like thunder. Apex Innovations is one of those sleek corporate towers, glass walls, buzzing servers, and enough security cameras to make you feel watched every second. I don't belong in the fancy offices. I'm the guy in the jumpsuit with a toolbox slipping in and out like a ghost. But that day, I needed to head down to the lobby to clock out. I pressed the elevator button, and the doors slid open with a soft ding. I stepped in, not expecting company at this hour, but there she was. Sophia Reynolds, the 42-year-old tech manager everyone whispered about. I'd seen her around striding through the halls like she owned the place, which she practically did. She was known for being ice cold, the kind of boss who fired people with a single email and never cracked a smile. Tall, with sharp features, dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, and always in those power suits that screamed authority. She was typing furiously on her laptop, barely glancing up as I entered. The doors closed, and the elevator hummed downward. Then, without warning, it jerked to a stop. The lights flickered, and everything went still. No movement, no sound, except the faint creak of cables. I felt my stomach drop, not from fear, but from the annoyance of knowing this would screw up my schedule. Sophia looked up, her eyes narrowing like I'd personally sabotaged the thing. "What the hell?" she muttered, jabbing the emergency button. Nothing. She pulled out her phone, no signal. "Of all the goddamn times," she snapped, her voice echoing in the confined space. I stayed quiet at first, leaning against the wall with my toolbox at my feet. But she turned to me, her gaze slicing through like a knife. You're the janitor, right? Do something." Her tone was laced with disdain, like I was beneath her notice. I shifted uncomfortably. "I'm HVAC maintenance, actually. Elevators aren't my thing, but I can check the panel if you want." She scoffed, crossing her arms. "Unbelievable. Stuck in here with a janitor. This building is a joke." The word janitor hit like a slap. I'd heard it before, but coming from her, it stung. "Look, ma'am, I'm just trying to get home like you. No need to bite my head off." She ignored me, slamming her fist on the button again. "This can't be happening. I have a deadline." Her laptop beeped, a low battery warning, and she cursed under her breath, something sharp in Spanish that I didn't catch. She paced the small space, her heels clicking angrily. "Damn it, it's dying, and I need to fix this code before the board meeting." I hesitated, then reached into my toolbox. "I have a portable charger. It's not fancy, but it might buy you some time." She whipped around, eyeing the cheap black brick like it was contaminated. "You think that dollar store crap can handle a high-end laptop? This is a $5 billion deal on the line, not some kid's homework." I felt my face heat up. $5 billion? That explained the panic in her eyes, hidden behind the frost. But her words grated. Dollar store crap? I'd scraped together every penny for my tools. Hey, it's better than nothing. Unless you want to sit here in the dark. She snatched it from me, plugging in with a huff. "Fine, but if it fries my system, you're paying for it." The silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable. I leaned against the wall, staring at the floor while she typed away. But then I overheard her muttering about the code. Something about a recursion error causing an infinite loop on transactions over $1 billion. It clicked. I'd seen similar issues in my online courses. That recursion thing," I said tentatively, "sounds like a Stack Overflow when handling large sums. I've tinkered with patterns like that in Python." She froze, her fingers hovering over the keys. Her head snapped up, eyes wide with suspicion. What did you just say? How do you know about recursion? Were you eavesdropping on my calls? I held up my hands. No, ma'am. I work near the server rooms, cleaning vents. Sound carries through the ducts sometimes. I didn't mean to overhear. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a hiss. So you're admitting to spying? In a secure building? I could have you fired for that. The elevator shook suddenly, a minor aftershock from whatever mechanical failure had trapped us, and the lights dimmed. Sophia gasped, grabbing the handrail, her composure cracking for the first time. Oh God, what if it falls? Panic edged her words. I stepped closer, keeping my voice steady. It won't. These things have safety brakes, just breathe. But she wasn't listening. She rounded on me again. Breathe? Easy for you to say. You're just the help. Scrubbing floors while the world burns. Do you even understand what's at stake? This blockchain contract could make or break the company, and I'm stuck here with someone who probably doesn't know code from a mop. Her words cut deep, fueling my own frustration. Lady, I know more than you think. I graduated from Stanford with a systems engineering degree, but yeah, the economy tanked, and now I'm here fixing your air so you don't sweat in your corner office. Don't act like you're better just because you sit at a desk. The argument escalated, our voices bouncing off the walls. She accused me of being bitter. I called her out on her elitism. The confined space amplified everything, the heat rising, the air growing stale. She paced, her laptop forgotten, ranting about how people like me were replaceable. I shot back about how execs like her stole ideas from the little guys. It was raw, unfiltered, two strangers unloading years of pent-up resentment. But as the minutes ticked by, her anger cracked further. She slumped against the wall, admitting quietly, I can't lose this deal. It's all I have. And in that vulnerability, the high drama of our entrapment peaked, the elevator feeling like a pressure cooker ready to explode. The argument hung in the air like a storm cloud, our breaths heavy in the confined space. Sophia's face was flushed, her eyes still blazing from the back and forth we'd just had. I'd called her elitist. She'd called me bitter. But now, with the elevator still stubbornly silent, the fight seemed to drain out of us both. She slid down the wall, sitting on the floor with her laptop propped on her knees, the charger I'd given her humming faintly. I stayed standing, my back against the opposite side, toolbox at my feet. The dim emergency lights cast long shadows, making the whole thing feel even more surreal. She broke the silence first, her voice quieter now, edged with suspicion. What did you mean you've seen patterns like that? How could a maintenance guy know about recursion errors? She glanced at me, her bun slightly loosened from the pacing, a strand of dark hair falling across her forehead. I could see the wheels turning in her mind, doubt, curiosity, maybe a hint of desperation because that deadline was ticking away. I rubbed the back of my neck, feeling exposed. Look, I wasn't spying, but yeah, I've overheard stuff. My job takes me near the server rooms, cleaning vents, checking ducts. Sound travels through those things like whispers in a confessional. I hear meetings, code reviews, all of it. Not on purpose, but it's hard to tune out when you're elbow deep in grime. She straightened up, her posture going rigid. So, you admit to eavesdropping? In a secure facility? That's a breach. I could report you right now if we ever get out of here. Her tone was sharp again, but there was less venom, more wariness. I sighed, pulling out my battered notebook from the toolbox. It was nothing fancy, just a cheap spiral-bound thing stained with grease and dust. But inside it was crammed with sketches, code snippets, and diagrams I'd jotted down during breaks. Here, this isn't spying. It's me trying to stay sharp. I flipped it open to a page where I'd sketched out a flow chart for optimizing energy flow in the building's HVAC system, complete with pseudocode for error handling. Her eyes widened as she leaned forward to look. What is this? Wait. This recursion fix, it's exactly what my team's been struggling with. How did you… I shrugged, sitting down across from her, the floor cold through my jumpsuit. Like I said, I've tinkered. But it's not just tinkering. I graduated from Stanford with a degree in systems engineering. Top of my class, actually. Spent years building prototypes for efficient networks, even interned at a startup in Silicon Valley. She blinked, her laptop screen reflecting in her eyes. Stanford? Then why are you here? Scrubbing vents at 5 a.m.? There it was, the question that always stung, the one I'd asked myself 1,000 times. I leaned my head back against the wall, staring at the ceiling panels. The economy crashed right after I graduated. Tech bubble burst, layoffs everywhere. I applied to hundreds of jobs, entry-level dev positions, anything. But no experience, no connections, and suddenly everyone's fighting for scraps. I ended up back in Riverside, crashing with family until I could stand on my own. This gig, it was the only thing hiring. Pays the bills, lets me take online courses at night. But yeah, it's not what I pictured. She was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she asked, softer, "So you've been here. How long?" 2 years, I said. Long enough to see how things really work. Like that energy proposal last year, the one that saved the company $2 million annually? Anonymous submission through the suggestion box. That was me. Optimize the HVAC algorithms to reduce waste by 30%. But some suit in R&D slapped their name on it, got the bonus and the pat on the back. Her face paled. That was you? I reviewed that proposal. It was brilliant. I pushed it through, but I had no idea. She looked genuinely shocked, her cold facade cracking further. For the first time, she seemed human. Not the untouchable manager, but someone carrying her own weight. I nodded, a bitter smile tugging at my lips. Yeah, people like me? We're invisible. No one asks the janitor, HVAC guy, if he has a degree. They just assume we're the help. She set her laptop aside, hugging her knees to her chest. The elevator felt smaller now, but not in a bad way, more intimate, like we'd crossed some invisible line. I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't know. I've been so wrapped up in my own world, the deadlines, the pressure. This job, it consumes everything. Her voice trailed off, and I could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the lines around them that spoke of late nights and endless stress. We talked more then, the words flowing easier as the minutes dragged on. I opened up about my post-grad struggles, the rejections, the debt, the nights doubting if I'd ever use my brain for more than fixing leaks. She listened, really listened, her head tilted slightly. Then she shared her side, climbing the ladder in a male-dominated field, sacrificing relationships for promotions, the isolation of being 42 and still single because work always came first. I push people away, she admitted quietly. It's easier than letting them see the mess underneath. There was a vulnerability there, a crack in her armor that made her seem younger, more approachable. The age gap between us, 15 years, felt less like a chasm and more like a bridge as we connected over shared frustrations with the corporate machine. By the time we'd been stuck for what felt like hours, the tension from our fight had dissolved into something else. Mutual respect, maybe even empathy. She handed back my charger with a small smile. Thanks for this, and for the insight on the code. I think I can patch it now. I watched her type, our knees almost touching in the tight space. For the first time, I didn't feel like just the help. And she didn't seem like the ice queen. We were just two people, trapped together, starting to see each other for real. As the conversation wound down, Sophia picked up her laptop again, her fingers flying across the keys with renewed focus. The emergency lights buzzed overhead, and the air in the elevator felt heavier, charged with the revelations we'd just shared. I'd opened up about my degree, the stolen proposal, the grind of being invisible. She'd confessed her isolation, the toll of her climb to the top. Now she was incorporating my suggestions into her code patch, muttering to herself as she tested lines in a virtual environment. I watched quietly, not wanting to interrupt, but curiosity got the better of me after about 10 minutes. "How's it looking?" I asked, peering over. She didn't snap at me this time. Instead, she angled the screen slightly so I could see. "It's stabilizing, but the recursion loop, it's still infinite when the transaction hits over 1 billion. The stack overflows every time." I nodded, recognizing the issue from my notebook sketches. "Mind if I take a look?" She hesitated, her pride flickering, but then she handed it over. "Go ahead. At this point, what do I have to lose?" I sat cross-legged on the floor, the laptop warm on my knees. The code was complex, layers of blockchain logic intertwined with security protocols, but I'd seen worse in my online simulations. "Here," I said after a few minutes, pointing to a nested function. "Your base case isn't triggering properly for large values. It's recursing without bounds because the memoization isn't caching the intermediates fast enough. She leaned in, her shoulder brushing mine accidentally, the first real contact we'd had. But we optimized that last week. How did you spot it so quickly? I typed in a quick adjustment, adding a dynamic cache threshold based on transaction size. Because I don't have the luxury of overcomplicating things. In my world, stuff has to work right, fast, and accurately, or the vents clog and the whole system fails. No room for elegant bloat. I ran a test simulation on her machine, and the loop resolved in seconds, no overflow. She stared at the output, her mouth slightly open. It works, completely. In under 30 minutes, you fixed what my team couldn't in days. Her voice was a whisper, laced with awe and something else. Maybe regret for how she'd treated me earlier. Sometimes fresh eyes help, I said modestly, handing the laptop back. Or eyes from the vents. She didn't laugh, but her lips twitched in a near smile. Ethan, how? I mean, really, why hide this talent? Before I could answer, the elevator lurched again, this time with a promising whir. The lights brightened and the doors finally slid open with a chime. We both scrambled to our feet, grabbing our things. But instead of the empty hallway I'd expected, we stepped out into a sea of faces. The board of directors clustered in the lobby, looking frantic. Suits everywhere, coffee cups abandoned, phones buzzing. One of them, a stern older man with a clipboard, spotted Sophia first. Reynolds, thank God. The system's crashing, recursion errors everywhere, the contract's tanking. Sophia straightened her suit, composure snapping back like armor. But then she glanced at me, still in my grubby jumpsuit, toolbox in hand. Before I could slip away unnoticed, she grabbed my arm lightly. Wait, everyone, this man, Ethan Hayes, our HVAC specialist, he just saved us from total disaster. The room went silent, all eyes on me. I felt like a deer in headlights, sweat from the entrapment mixing with embarrassment. The clipboard guy, must have been a senior exec, scoffed loudly. Him? The janitor? You can't be serious, Reynolds. We've got a $5 billion deal imploding, and you're telling me the cleaning crew fixed it? It's true, she said firmly, her voice cutting through the murmurs. He spotted the recursion flaw and patched it. He's not just maintenance. He's a Stanford-educated engineer. Whispers erupted. Another director, a woman with sharp glasses, stepped forward. This is ridiculous. You expect us to believe some blue-collar guy waltzed in and saved the day? Prove it. Sophia thrust her laptop forward. Run the sim yourself. The code's solid now, no loops, no overflows. The woman did, her skepticism fading as the results popped up clean. My God, it works! The tension in the room shifted like a tide turning. Eyes that had dismissed me now studied me curiously. The clipboard exec crossed his arms. Even if that's true, how do we know he didn't cause the error in the first place? Security breach? I stepped up then, my voice steadier than I felt. I didn't. But if you want proof, check the logs. I submitted an anonymous optimization last year that saved you millions. Someone else took credit. Gasps rippled through the group. Sophia nodded. He's right. And he's the best engineer I've ever seen, better than half our team. The reversal hit like a wave. From the guy they'd ignored in the halls to the unexpected hero, the board's disdain melted into reluctant admiration. Clipboard guy grumbled, but extended a hand. Well, son, if that's the case, we owe you. I shook it, still dazed. Sophia stood beside me, her presence a quiet anchor. In that moment, the underdog had flipped the script. I wasn't the invisible help anymore. I was the one who'd pulled them from the brink. The reversal in the lobby hung like an electric charge, the board members' faces a mix of shock and calculation. Sophia stood tall beside me, her hand dropping from my arm as the exec swarmed us with questions. Explain this, the clipboard guy, whose name tag read Harold Voss, CFO, demanded, his eyes darting between us. How does a maintenance worker fix a billion-dollar glitch? I swallowed hard, my jumpsuit suddenly feeling like a clown costume in this sea of tailored suits. But Sophia jumped in. He didn't just fix it. He rewrote the recursion logic on the fly. Check the code yourself. They ushered us into the nearest conference room, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Riverside's sleepy skyline. The sun was just creeping up, casting long golden rays across the polished table. I felt out of place, my toolbox clunking awkwardly as I set it down. The board, about a dozen of them, all middle-aged power players, took seats, murmuring. Sophia plugged her laptop into the projector, pulling up the patched code. "Ethan, walk them through it," she said, her voice steady, encouraging. I nodded, stepping to the front, my heart pounding like a jackhammer. Right. So the issue was in the base case for large transactions," I started, my voice cracking a bit at first. I pointed to the screen, tracing the lines I'd adjusted. When values exceed 1 billion, the function recurses without proper memoization, leading to Stack Overflow. I added a dynamic cache here, simple threshold based on input size, to store intermediates and break the loop. The room was silent as I ran the simulation again, the graphs showing smooth processing, no errors. Harold leaned forward, squinting. This works. But how? Our lead devs couldn't crack it. Another director, a balding guy with a Harvard tie, chimed in with a smirk. "You learned this on YouTube, kid? Or some bootcamp app?" I felt the jab, the condescension dripping from his words. My cheeks burned, but I met his gaze. "Yeah, partly. Online courses, forums, whatever it takes. And that's why it works. I don't have academic biases clouding the basics. I fix what doesn't run, period. No ego, no over-engineering." Murmurs rippled around the table. The woman with the sharp glasses, Eleanor Tate, VP of Ops, nodded slowly. "Impressive. Our team's been buried in theory. This is practical genius." Sophia sat at the end, her expression unreadable at first, but as I glanced her way, I caught it. A flicker of pride in her eyes. It was the first time I'd seen her look at anyone like that, let alone me. It fueled me, steadying my nerves as I fielded more questions, explaining the energy proposal I'd submitted anonymously, proving it wasn't a fluke. The board huddled for a quick sidebar, whispers flying. Then Harold cleared his throat. "Hayes, we're impressed. Hell, we're floored. We're offering you a senior developer position. Full-time, 6 figures, stock options. Start tomorrow." The room nodded in agreement, a few even clapping. It was surreal, like stepping from the shadows into a spotlight I'd never chased. But as the offer sank in, I thought of the nights I'd spent in those vents, the exhaustion, the stolen ideas. And I thought of Sophia, how she'd admitted the job consumed her, leaving her isolated at 42 with nothing but deadlines for company. I shook my head. "Thank you, but no," gasps echoed. Eleanor leaned in. "What? This is a life changer." I met Sophia's eyes again. She looked curious, not disappointed. "I appreciate it, really. But I've seen what this grind does. Endless hours, no life outside these walls. I've watched it swallow people whole. Like her." I nodded towards Sophia, who raised an eyebrow but didn't interrupt. "I don't want that. I want balance. My degree's gathering dust because the system's rigged, but I'm not jumping into the same trap." Harold frowned. "So, what do you want? Name it." I took a breath, laying it out. "A flexible role, consultant maybe. 30 hours a week max, remote options. Let me fix problems without the corporate leash. Pay me fairly, sure, but give me time to live. To code for fun, not just survival." The board exchanged glances, debating in low tones. Sophia spoke up then, her voice calm but firm. "He's right. We've lost talent to burnout. This could be a new model, retain geniuses without breaking them." Harold rubbed his chin. "Fine. We'll draw up a contract. Director of Innovation, part-time, your terms. But prove your worth, Hayes." They shook my hand, the deal sealed in minutes. As the meeting wrapped, the board filtered out buzzing about the miracle janitor. Sophia lingered, closing her laptop. "That was bold, Ethan, turning down the brass ring." I shrugged, picking up my toolbox. "It wasn't right for me, but thanks for backing me up." She smiled faintly, the first real one I'd seen from her. "You earned it. And maybe we could collaborate on more projects? Your perspective, it's refreshing." I nodded, a spark of something new igniting. "I'd like that." In the weeks that followed, the contract came through and I started officially. No more night shifts, just targeted fixes and innovations. Sophia and I teamed up on a few initiatives, our meetings evolving from stiff briefings to collaborative sessions. We'd brainstorm over coffee in the break room, her sharing war stories from the trenches, me offering ground-level insights. The age gap faded in those moments. She was sharp, driven, but now I saw the warmth beneath. Our talks drifted beyond code to books, hikes along the riverside trails, the quiet regrets of paths not taken. She opened up more about her sacrifices, the relationships she'd let wither for the job. I shared my dreams of a balanced life, maybe even starting a side gig in open source tech. It wasn't romance, not yet, but a bond was forming, built on mutual respect, pulling us closer through shared projects and late afternoon chats. 6 months had flown by since that fateful elevator entrapment, and Riverside felt different now, brighter somehow, even on its foggy days. I'd traded my jumpsuit for casual button-downs, my toolbox for a sleek laptop bag. Apex Innovations had kept their word. I was now director of innovation, part-time, with the flexibility I demanded. No more night shifts scrubbing vents. Instead, I consulted on projects, optimizing systems and brainstorming fixes that saved the company time and money. The board treated me like an equal, mostly. There were still sideways glances from folks like Harold, but my results spoke louder than any skepticism. That afternoon, I sat in the main conference room for my formal promotion review. The same polished table, the same city view, but now I was at the head, not the sidelines. The board filed in, Sophia among them, taking a seat across from me. She looked composed as always, her hair down for once, softening her sharp features. Harold kicked things off. Hayes, you've exceeded expectations. That energy overhaul you led saved us another million this quarter. But tell us, what changed your mind? You turned down the full-time gig, yet here you are, diving deeper. I leaned back, smiling faintly. The room waited, pens poised over notepads. Honestly, it was about seeing value where others didn't. For years, I was just the guy in the vents, invisible, underestimated. But one person looked past the label, saw me as more than a tool. That shifted everything. Made me realize I could contribute without losing myself. Whispers rippled. Eleanor nodded thoughtfully. And who was that person? Harold pressed. I glanced at Sophia, her eyes meeting mine with a subtle warmth. Someone who got trapped in an elevator with me, I said lightly. Laughter broke the tension, but Sophia's gaze lingered, a silent acknowledgement. The meeting wrapped with handshakes and congratulations. As the board dispersed, Sophia hung back. Director Hayes, she said with a teasing smile. Suits you, I chuckled. Feels weird, but good. Thanks for pushing for it. We walked out together, the hallway buzzing with morning activity. Our collaboration had grown seamless over the months, late strategy sessions turning into casual lunches, her sharp insights blending with my practical hacks. But lately it wasn't just work. We'd started lingering after hours, conversations drifting from algorithms to life. That evening, after wrapping a project, she suggested grabbing takeout. My place? We can review the next phase over Thai. I agreed, following her to her condo on the outskirts of Riverside, a modern spot with river views, minimalist decor that screamed efficiency. But as we unpacked the food in her kitchen, the vibe shifted. No laptops, no whiteboards, just us, plates in hand, sitting on her balcony as the sun dipped low. You know, she said, twirling noodles on her fork, I meant what I said back then. This job nearly broke me. 42, and what do I have? Titles, but no one to share the wins with. Her voice softened, vulnerability peeking through. I set my plate down, the cool evening breeze rustling the trees below. I get it. 27, and I've spent years feeling like a failure. Degree in hand, but mopping floors, but that day in the elevator, it reminded me I'm more than my job. She looked at me, really looked, her eyes searching. You reminded me of that too. I was so wrapped up in the grind, I forgot people matter more than code. We talked for hours about her string of failed relationships, sacrificed for promotions, my post-grad isolation, the friends who'd moved on while I stayed stuck. Laughter mixed with quiet admissions, the age gap feeling irrelevant as we connected over shared scars. From there, our reviews became dates in disguise. We'd cook simple meals at my apartment. Nothing fancy, just pasta and wine, laughing over botched recipes. You're a disaster in the kitchen, she'd tease, her hand brushing mine as we chopped vegetables. I'd grin back. Hey, I fix systems, not sauces. But beneath the banter, something deeper grew, We'd hike the riverside trails on weekends, her pace steady and strong, mine eager to keep up. She'd share stories of her early career struggles, being the only woman in boardrooms, fighting for respect. I'd open up about my family's expectations, the pressure to make it after Stanford. I thought success meant a corner office, she'd say quietly one afternoon as we sat by the water. But it's this: moments that feel real. The healing was mutual, subtle. She taught me confidence, pushing me to claim credit for my ideas at work. I showed her balance, weekends unplugging, stargazing instead of scrolling emails. Our touches started innocent, a hand on the shoulder, a hug goodbye, evolving into something tender. One night, after a long day, we ended up on her couch, her head on my shoulder. "Ethan," she whispered, "this scares me. The age thing, the office, it's complicated." I pulled her closer. "Me too, but it's real. We're not just fixing code anymore, we're fixing each other." She looked up, and we kissed. Slow, honest, like two people who'd waited too long to see what was right in front of them. In the end, I realized work wasn't everything. I'd once thought it defined me until a woman trapped in an elevator helped me rewrite my own script. And she? "I used to think ambition was all," she'd say, her fingers intertwined with mine. Until a guy from the vents showed me how to repair something more important: myself. Our story unfolded naturally, no rush, no labels, just two souls once damaged, learning to see each other truly in the quiet spaces beyond the grind.